Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are breaking down one of the boldest and most carefully executed moments of this entire conflict. Ukraine's most daring operation has ended in a Crimea victory, and what we are witnessing is not luck or coincidence, but the result of years of planning, patience, and calculated pressure. This operation changed the balance of power and forced a reality that many once believed could never happen. For a long time, Crimea was treated as an unmovable piece on the map. Russia invested heavily in defenses, infrastructure, and symbolism. It was presented as permanent, protected, and beyond reach. But wars are not won by symbols. They are won by strategy, endurance, and the ability to adapt faster than your opponent. Ukraine understood this from the beginning. This operation did not start with explosions or announcements. It began quietly with rebuilding capability and confidence. Ukraine focused on reforming command structures, improving coordination, and integrating new technology. Instead of rushing into risky moves, they studied weaknesses and waited for the right moment. Every delay was intentional. One of the most important elements of this daring operation was patience. Ukraine resisted pressure to act prematurely. While the world watched for dramatic breakthroughs, Ukrainian planners focused on sustainability. They understood that Crimea could not be taken in a single strike. It had to be weakened layer by layer until holding it became impossible. Geography played a key role. Crimea's position as a peninsula makes it both valuable and vulnerable. Ukraine identified this early. Rather than pushing ground forces into fortified areas, they focused on access. Roads, bridges, ports, and logistics routes became the real battlefield. Every disruption increased the cost of occupation. Supply lines were slowly stretched thin. Fuel deliveries became inconsistent. Ammunition storage faced repeated threats. Repair crews were forced to work under pressure. None of these disruptions alone caused collapse, but together they created constant strain. Crimea was still occupied, but the system supporting it was cracking. Airspace control was another critical factor. Ukraine expanded its ability to contest skies that were once dominated by Russian forces. Drones, long-range strikes, and improved intelligence allowed Ukraine to challenge airbases and radar systems. Each successful operation reduced Russia's ability to respond quickly. Naval pressure added another layer. Ships that once symbolized control became targets. Ports lost their sense of safety. Naval movements became limited and cautious. This reduced Russia's ability to support ground forces and resupply efficiently. Crimea's isolation was no longer theoretical. It was becoming real. Intelligence played a central role throughout the operation. Ukraine's ability to gather, analyze, and act on information improved dramatically. Targets were selected with precision. Strikes were timed for maximum impact. This reduced waste and increased effectiveness. It also sent a clear message that nothing was truly hidden. Inside Crimea, daily life changed. Air raid alerts became routine. Military convoys moved at night. Defensive structures expanded deeper into urban areas. These are not signs of strength. They are signs of fear. A secure territory does not behave this way. Morale among occupying forces began to decline. Soldiers faced uncertainty about rotations, supplies, and leadership decisions. When confidence erodes, performance follows. Ukraine did not need to defeat every unit directly. It only needed to make the situation unbearable. This daring operation also relied on restraint. Ukraine avoided unnecessary escalation. Civilian areas were not the focus. The goal was not chaos but control. This approach preserved international support and reinforced Ukraine's credibility on the global stage. As Ukraine demonstrated discipline and effectiveness, international backing increased. Advanced systems arrived. Intelligence sharing deepened. Training improved. Each contribution strengthened Ukraine's ability to sustain pressure while limiting risk. The gap between Ukrainian capability and Russian resilience grew wider. The turning point came when multiple pressures aligned. Logistics were strained. Air defenses were weakened. Naval support was reduced. Command and control faced disruption. Russia could still fight, but it could no longer dominate. Holding Crimea required resources that were no longer available. Russian forces began consolidating. Instead of projecting control across the peninsula, they focused on key locations. This shift revealed the reality of the situation. When an army pulls inward, it is preparing for loss, not victory. Ukraine recognized this moment and adjusted accordingly. There was no rush to declare success. Instead, operations continued with steady pressure. Every attempt to reinforce Crimea created new vulnerabilities. Convoys became targets. Transfers drew attention. Isolation deepened. The final phase of this daring operation was defined by inevitability. Crimea had become too expensive to hold and too risky to defend. Staying meant continuous losses without strategic gain. Withdrawal, though costly politically, became the only option to avoid deeper damage. When the victory became clear, it did not arrive with a single dramatic image. It arrived as a realization. Control had shifted. Authority had changed. The system supporting occupation had collapsed under its own weight. For Ukraine, this victory carries deep meaning. Crimea was not just territory. It was a symbol of injustice and unresolved conflict. Regaining it reinforces the principle that borders matter and that force does not grant legitimacy. The implications extend far beyond the peninsula. This outcome reshapes the strategic balance in the region. It affects naval power in the Black Sea. It influences future negotiations. It sends a message to other conflicts around the world. This daring operation also changes the narrative of the war. Crimea was once portrayed as permanent. Its return proves that no occupation is irreversible. It shows that time, when used wisely, can be a powerful weapon. Of course, challenges remain. Reintegrating Crimea will require careful governance, security planning, and reconstruction. Years of militarization leave lasting scars. Ukraine will need patience and support to stabilize the region and rebuild trust. But the success of this operation demonstrates something crucial. Victory does not always come from speed or force alone. It comes from strategy, endurance, and clarity of purpose. Ukraine's approach in Crimea reflects this truth. As the situation continues to evolve, military planners and historians will study this operation closely. It will be analyzed not for its spectacle, but for its discipline. It will be remembered as a case study in modern warfare. Ukraine's most daring operation did not rely on overwhelming numbers. It relied on understanding the battlefield better than the opponent. It relied on knowing when to strike and when to wait. This victory marks a shift from survival to momentum. It shows that Ukraine is not only resisting, but shaping outcomes. The balance of initiative has changed. As we look ahead, the lessons of Crimea will influence every next step. The conflict is not over, but its direction has been altered. Ukraine has demonstrated that calculated pressure can achieve what brute force cannot. This was the moment when a daring plan met reality and succeeded. And as history moves forward, the Crimea victory will stand as proof that even the strongest positions can fall when strategy outlasts force.